Hello again, class. It is time for math. Okay, we're going to introduce the clock today, but first let's review before we do something new. Okay, we've been talking about concepts of time: before, after, first, next, last. Okay, when we talk about the order that we do things, those are concepts of time. Okay, we reviewed that how calendar is a concept of time, right? There are 7 days in a week, and 4 weeks makes a month, and 12 months make a year, and a year is 365 days, unless it's a leap year like this past year, February, it was 366. Okay, and yesterday we talked about duration. Duration talks about how much time it takes to do something. Okay, yesterday you saw and you practiced today comparing duration of two different activities to see which would have a longer duration, which would have a shorter duration, which would take more time, which would take less time. So today, now we're going to put those concepts into the clock to learn how to tell time. Now here I have two different kinds of clocks. Okay, this clock right here is called an starts with a vowel, so I have to use the word an, analog clock. This is an analog clock. Some people also call it a standard clock. Okay, these two clocks, I wasn't sure which you'd be able to see better, so I put them both. My other one's at school. These are called digital clocks. Okay, and we're going to talk about the two different clocks and their parts and their functions. So let's take the analog clock first. Okay, and the front part of an analog clock is called the face. Now, I don't see an eyes, nose, or mouth on that face, do you? But let's think about what our face does. Hold up, Miss Sweeney, let's get your water. Our face holds things, right? It holds our nose, it holds our mouth, it holds our eyebrows, right? Okay, let's see what this face is holding. Well, this face is holding numbers, and they are in a special order. One of the activities you're going to do today on Seesaw is put the numbers on the face of the clock in the correct order. So let's look at the order of the numbers. 12 is always on the top in an analog clock. And if you go straight down, 6 is on the bottom. And then, if you go halfway around, we have a 3. And then straight across from the 3 is the 9. That's a good way to remember where to position them. And then the other numbers. So we start at 12, and we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 at the bottom, 7, 8, 9 on the side, 10, 11, 12 back at the top. So, one of the purposes of the face on the analog clock is to hold the numbers. Okay, what else is on it? Arrows. Right, and these arrows are called hands. Now, they're not hands that pick things up, but they are hands to point with. Are the two hands the same? Well, right off we see that on this clock, they're two different colors. On the clocks you're using, I believe they're two different colors, maybe yellow and blue. Okay, how else are they different? Let's take a look. Right, one is longer and one is shorter. You might hear, I remember when I was a kid and I didn't know how to tell time, asking my mom what time it was, and she'd say, "What does the clock say?" I said, "Ma, the clock doesn't say anything. It's not talking to me." So I would say, "Well, the big hand is on the 12, and the little hand is on the 3. That's how I learned how to tell time. Okay, so let's look up here. I drew two hands. Okay, one longer, and we call that you can call it the big hand, but its real name is the minute hand. So the longer hand is the minute hand. Okay, and then we have the shorter hand. The shorter hand is called the hour hand, and they have certain jobs. Okay, so on our face of our analog clock, we have the numbers, and we have two hands. On some analog clocks, there's a skinny hand, real skinny hand, that is always moving. That is called the second hand because it counts the seconds. You know, from the second she was a seed, she was perfect. The second is quick, right? So this clock doesn't have it. But we have our minute hand and our hour hand. Okay, now let's talk about our digital clocks. Well, they have faces too, right? And most of you have digital clocks in your house, right? Think of other places where you see digital clocks. In your house, on the microwave, maybe on the stove, maybe on the TV, on a cell phone, on a, like this iPod dock thing, in your car. Although Miss Sweeney had to go nuts looking in the attic. I was trying to find a good one where you could see better, but I have it up at school. Okay, and these are called digital clocks because, well, number one, we have to plug them in, but the numbers are squared. So digital numbers look a little different than the way you would write a regular number. So here is how we would write a regular 2. A digital 2 might look squared like this. Almost looks like a backwards 5, right? Okay? And a 6, regular 6 might look like that. A digital 6 might look like this. Made with straight lines. So you want to know the difference in how to read those two kind of numbers. Okay, but this one doesn't have hands. You know why it doesn't have hands? Because when you read the clock on the time on a digital clock, the first number is telling you what the hour is, so you don't need a hand. And the second numbers are telling you the minutes. So these certainly are easier to read. Does that mean you don't have to learn how to tell time on an analog clock? No, you definitely have to, because not everybody has digital clocks. Okay, so let's talk a little more about these hands. So this short one is our hour hand, and the long one is our minute hand. What do we do with them? Well, I always say, anytime you tell time on an analog clock, you should always look at the hour first. So that means you would look at the shorthand first. And in this case, where is the shorthand pointing? It's pointing to the 11. So on this clock right now, it's reading 11. And anytime the minute hand is pointing to the top of the clock, it's always saying, "Oh, clock!" That's how I always teach my students to remember. Anytime the long hand, the minute hand, is pointing to the top of the clock, it's saying, "Oh, clock." Okay, so right now, the hour, look at that shorthand first, the hour is 11, and the minute hand's pointing to the top of the clock, so the time is 11 o'clock. Now, if you were to see 11 o'clock on a digital clock, it might look like this. There's no hands, so 11, the hour is first, separated by a colon, that's 2 dots, 11, okay, and then the zeros might look squared, o'clock. Okay, in kindergarten you only have to know time to the hour, which means the o'clocks, but I might teach you a little bit more. Okay, there's another way to write it. You could also write 11 o'clock like this, with words, 11, the letter O, and then clock. Okay, those would blend. So you can write 11 o'clock that way, or you can write 11 o'clock and write out the words. So it's certainly easier to read time on a digital clock because you don't have to figure out when it gets into the minutes what the minutes are, because that's where it starts to get tricky. Okay, so I always say that the the hour hand is the important one. You look at it first. So when you do your papers today, I would like you to circle the hour hand and the hour, because that's the hand you want to look at first. Always look at that short hand first. Okay, your hour hand is 11. Now, the minute hand, he's still important too, because the hour hand cannot go to the next number until the minute hand has taken a whole trip all the way around the clock. Okay, so now if I move to one number, each number is worth 5 minutes. So remember, skip counting by fives when we did our 100th day, and skip counting by fives when we did our nickels. Same thing with time. Each number is worth 5 minutes when the minute hand is moving. So right now let's check our hour hand first. 11 Minute hand's pointing to the top of the clock, so it's 11 o'clock. Okay, he is going to move one number. That means he's traveled 5 minutes. He is taking a 5-minute trip. So now it's not 11 o'clock anymore because our minute hand is not pointing to the top of the clock anymore. Now we would say it is, get my eraser, 11, it's not o'clock anymore. Now we would say it's 11:05. So on a digital clock, it might look like that. Okay. Has he gone all the way around yet? Nope. So the hour hand has to stay here. It's still 11. It's 11:05. And then the minute hand is going to go to the next number. Each number is worth 5. So we're counting by 5s. So now it's 11, 5, 10. Now it's 11:10. So if you were reading it on a digital clock, it would be easy because you don't have to count how many minutes went by. So it's 11:10. Can he go to the next number yet? Not yet. That minute hand has to travel all the way around the clock. So he's going to go to the next number. All right, so now it traveled another 5 minutes. So 5, 10, 15. So now it's 11:15. Each number is worth 5. So let's see how many minutes. I'm going to fast forward. We're going to see how many minutes it takes the minute hand to take one whole trip all the way around. Okay? So right now, what time is it? Let's look at the hour hand first, the short hand first. It's 11, and the minute hand is pointing to the top of the clock, so we say it's 11 o'clock. All right, 11 o'clock. Now we're going to count by 5. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Now on my clock, there are little numbers too that tell me what the numbers are, the minutes. Can you see it? 30. So now it's 11:30. So anytime the minute hand is pointing straight to the ground, he's saying 30. That means the minute hand's taking a 30-minute trip halfway around the clock. All right, we're halfway there. So now the time is, let's look at your short hand, your hour hand first. 11, and we went 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So now our digital clock that I'm writing here would be 11:30. Okay, now we've got to keep going. We're on 11:30. Count by 5s. 30. Now you might notice too that when the minute hand has gone halfway around, he's doing all the leg work, right? The hour hand, it should be between the two numbers, halfway. Okay, so watch again. On a real clock, a real analog clock, the hands would move by themselves. Okay, so now what time is it again? Hour hand first, 11. Minute hand's pointing to the top of the clock, so it's 11 o'clock. Okay. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. Okay. So, since the minute hand went halfway around, the hour hand is now halfway between where it was at 11 and going to the next hour. Okay. So now it's 11:30. Okay. 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. 60 minutes. So, 60 minutes, boys and girls, equals 1 whole hour. 1 whole hour. It takes 1 whole hour, 60 minutes, for the minute hand to travel all the way around so that the hour hand can go to the next number. Let's take a look at our clock now. Where's the short hand, the hour hand? Right, he's back here. He's pointing to, you always look at that one first. You want to know the hour first. Both are important hands, but I always say the hour hand is more important because it's important to know the hour, even if you can't figure out the minutes exactly, right? Okay, so the hour hand, the shorthand, is pointing to the 12. I'll write it as a digital number. So it's 12. Where's the minute hand? Oh, the minute hand's pointing to the top of the clock too. And anytime the minute hand points to the top of the clock, it's saying, o'clock. So it's 12 is our hour, and our minute is o'clock. Oh, I could be writing it down here. You guys are going to be able to write it on yours too. I forgot I could write it down here. I just came right upside down. So you will be able to write the digital time, and if you can't make them look like square numbers, that's okay. You can make them regular. So now it's 12 o'clock. Okay. Now, when will it be 1 o'clock? Let's see. That hour hand has to stay there. The minute hand is going to move. All right, so now it's 12. It moves one number, 05. Each number is 5 minutes. Or you can say it's 5 minutes past 12 because it went past the o'clock. Okay, 12:05, 12:10, 15, 20, 25. Okay, we're pointing to the bottom, so now it's 12:30. It went 30 minutes past. Okay. Can the hour hand go to the next number yet? Nope, but it should be halfway between the 12 and the 1. Okay? So 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. 60 minutes. Back to the top of the clock. What's the hour now? Now it went to the next hour. It is not 1 o'clock anymore. Now we look at our shorthand first. It's pointing to the 2. So our hour is 2. And the minute hand is pointing to the top of the clock. So we say it's 2 o'clock. Okay. Now, does anybody know how many hours there are in a day? I think we talked about it yesterday when I was telling you when we reviewed the Earth rotating to make day and night. 24 hours in a day. But Miss Sweeney, there's not 24 numbers on the clock. Is there? No. Only 12. It only goes up to 12. There's no 24 o'clock. There's no 19 o'clock for us, is there? No. That's because each hour will happen twice in one day. During the daytime and during the nighttime. In the morning after midnight, after 12 o'clock midnight, that's 12 a.m. Then there is also then 1 o'clock a.m. we're still sleeping. 2 o'clock a.m. we're still sleeping. 3 o'clock a.m. most of us are still sleeping. 4 o'clock a.m. the birds are waking up. 5 o'clock a.m. some people start waking up that early. The animals outside definitely are. The ones that are daytime animals. The nocturnal ones are probably going to bed. 5 o'clock a.m. a.m. means morning. 6 o'clock a.m. That's a time for grown-ups usually start getting ready for work. 7 o'clock a.m. kids start waking up and getting ready for school. 8 o'clock a.m. most kids are up and on their way to school. 8 o'clock. 9 o'clock a.m. if we were in school, we would be doing reading. 10 o'clock a.m. still morning. We would be having snack. 11 o'clock a.m. get up there. Okay, we would be doing math. And then 12 o'clock a.m. you would be at lunch. Okay. Now, oops, sorry, now it's p.m. Once we hit lunchtime, after we hit the second 12 o'clock, now it's lunchtime. So now we're in the PMs. And then it happens again. Now, well, the rest of the hours will be afternoon and evening. So now it's PM, it's lunchtime. After lunch, still, now it's 2 p.m. So I'm moving. 3 p.m., you're usually getting ready to go, you're on your way home from school. 4 p.m., you're home doing your homework or you're in aftercare. So p.m. is anything after the 12 o'clock noon, lunchtime. Okay, and it takes 60 minutes to travel all the way around the clock before the hour hand can go to the next hour. But remember, when the minute hand has traveled halfway, the hour hand is usually between two numbers. The number it's leaving, the hour it's leaving, and the next hour it will go to. So here, right now, that's where it gets tricky. It's between two numbers. So you have to look at the number above it. It's 4:30 because 30 minutes went by in that minute hand. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And we get back to the top of the clock. That is when the hour hand goes to the next hour. Now it's 5. Always look at your hour hand, your short hand first. 5. And the minute hand's pointing to the top of the clock. So it's 5 what? O'clock. Top of the clock. O'clock. Okay, so 24 hours in a day, but that minute hand he's doing a lot of legwork just so the hour hand can go to the next hour. All right, boys and girls, I think that covered everything I wanted to teach you about analog clock. Digital clocks, they're easy. We don't need hands because the hour is in the first spot. You read it, you see it, say it the way you see it. 2 o'clock, right? Or 2:05. So digital clocks, yes, are quite easy, but it's important to know how to tell analog clock time. Okay, so on Seesaw, that's what I would like you to do first. Put the hours on the clock. Okay, 12 on the top, 6 straight down. Fill in your missing numbers, 1, 2, 3. So these numbers represent the hours, but also the minutes. And then you're going to do 2 pages in your book, and then 1 I'm going to send you. And what I would like you to do is circle or highlight, you can use your highlighter, to highlight or circle the hour and the hour hand. Because that is the digit you want, the number you want to read first. So here's the digital clock. You're going to look at the analog clock. Okay, they want you to trace it, but you can use your highlighter to make the hand and trace the hour. And then write the number. It says 10, and then it has it in words, o'clock. Pretty simple. Here, you're going to do the same. On the second page in your book, they're going to talk about day and night hours. So you have to look carefully at the activity that goes with each clock. And then this one is one I have to send to your parents. Okay, you're going to look at the analog clock first. Find the shorthand, the hour hand. You can use your highlighter to circle it or trace it straight to the number. Then circle the digital clock that matches the analog clock. All right, boys and girls? All right, I think we are going to have a great time with time. All right, I'll see you in a little while for religion.